Hi everybody, Michelle McClunan here, and I'm bringing you an update for this time that we're going through and the forthcoming full moon on the 28th of January. So we're building up to that full moon, and a lot of the themes are themes that we've actually seen before, but they're kind of amplified at the moment. So there's very big energy out there. Full moons are always a time when feelings tend to come to a head because the moon is connected with our feelings and the cycles and our rhythms. So generally at full moon, things might get bigger. That doesn't mean bad, it just means bigger. So whatever your feeling is, whatever your feeling state is, at full moon, that will be magnified. So this is a time for us to connect with the feelings that we want to connect with, and not feed the feelings that we don't want to connect with and we don't want to grow, because this is what's kind of setting the scene for this period of time. So always feelings tend to come to a head. It's a culmination of sorts. Every single full moon is the culmination of a monthly cycle. There's a sense of completion, and there's a sense of light being shone into the areas that need to be worked with, dealt with, healed, and looked at. So this full moon is in the sign of Leo, and Leo is all about leadership. It's a beautiful sign. It's actually the sign that's ruled by the sun. So it's very sun-oriented. It's a heart-based kind of shining sign. It's got to do with our creativity, our unique expression, how we shine our light out into the world. It's got to do with playfulness, the ability to see things as a game rather than get involved with the drama. Those are all kind of qualities of Leo. But the biggest thing is really that Leo rules the heart. And the heart center is what's actually getting us through these times. The other energy that's around this full moon is that, when you have a full moon, you have the sun on one side, the moon on the other side, opposite it, always opposite. And then in this one, we've actually got a square to the planets Mars and Uranus. And that's a kind of a feisty combination. So it's very much like the energy of the weather at the moment. We're sitting in Cape Town, and the wind has howled. It's kind of blustery, and it sort of leaves us a little unsettled, a little bit scattered, actually. So this is kind of amplifying that theme. And I think globally, we're probably going to see more unrest, probably more civil unrest, more people kind of fighting the status quo, whether that means the government or whether it means each other. We might see more arguments, so we need to really be present at this moment. It's a very kind of polarized energy, and it feels uncomfortable. And a lot of our stuff comes up to the surface, generally when there's energy around like this. So it's not just on full moon, but full moon tends to amplify it. So it's I'm putting this out a few days before full moon so that we can actually just really connect in with a place that's more helpful for us, that serves us better. In the midst of all the change that we see in the world, all the challenge that we see in the world, all the polarity that we see in the world, all the fighting that we see in the world, we always have a chance and a choice to actually not get involved in that and to stand firmly in our own power, in our own light. And that's what Leo is actually about. The other thing that's happening at the moment, not just at full moon, is that the planet Neptune is squaring the nodes of the moon. You don't have to understand that astrologically, but what that means is really what it suggests is that the veil is still there. The veil is still coming down. There's still some quite confusing energy, particularly when it comes to the information that we receive and what we believe. What's happening is Neptune is squaring the nodes of the moon, and the nodes of the moon are on the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius. Gemini meaning, Gemini is the sign which is associated with information, with how we think, how we speak, and Sagittarius, which is actually the sign that's associated with our belief system. So when Neptune is squaring these two, what Neptune tends to do is it tends to confuse the energy. So it tends to put us in a state where we might know exactly what is true for us in our heads, and then the next minute not be so sure and doubt what we've just felt to be true, or what we've thought to be true, rather. There are still many cover-ups. Some information is still coming into the light. So just being aware of that it is slightly confusing energy, and that really, where do we find our real sense of truth? And I've spoken about that quite a few times in the past few months. But really, this is the time to really find a more reliable source of truth than from the information that we bring in. The strong Aquarian theme that's around right now is interesting. So when we have the full moon in Leo, it's opposite the sign of the sun in Aquarius. This full moon, Aquarius, the sun is at 9 degrees Aquarius, and so is Jupiter at 9 degrees Aquarius. Jupiter always amplifies whatever it touches. And then those two are squaring Mars and Uranus. So what this really means is that there's a very strong Aquarian theme. Aquarius is really about grander visions, about re-envisioning our lives, moving into the state of an observer, as opposed to being involved and embedded in the drama of anything, whether that's our own emotions, or whether it's the chaos that's kind of happening in the world. We always have a choice to actually bring ourselves back and become the observer. So Aquarian energy is very much about that, becoming the observer. The issue, it's not really an issue, but what we also need to be aware of with Aquarius is that it's very heady. It's very high kind of minded. It's very in the mind. And the way to anchor or to bring ourselves back is to actually focus on the heart, which is the Leo. So when we actually come back to our heart center, the noise out there quietens down. We are able to find the truth inside ourselves in that very quiet place. And for me, that very quiet place actually resides in the heart. There's a beautiful book which I read years ago, and still dip into every now and then, by a man called Drunvalo Melchizedek, and it's called Living in the Heart. And his work is very aligned with the Heart Math Institute and the studies that have been done about heart coherence. First of all, the heart has a larger energetic field than any other organ in the body. They say it extends about 9 feet. I don't know how much that is in meters, maybe 2.5 meters. So it's that energy actually extends out. So when you meet a person who has a presence that pulls you in, you'll find that their heart energy is really radiating out. We each have the ability and the choice to connect to that heart energy at any moment. And for me, what brings me back is breath, is when it's chaotic out there, we feel like it's relentless, because this energy is a bit relentless. When we feel that we can't cope, when we feel all our emotional patterns drifting up, or even just sidelining us, stuff that we thought we might have dealt with in the past and dealt with, that stuff's tending to come out right now, because it's a time where we have to see it so that we can transcend it. It's not comfortable, might not be pleasant, but this is part of awakening. So I think when we say we want to awaken, we don't realize that we're actually going to have to go through these periods of time where we see our shadow, where we see our reactivity, where we see our old patterns that constantly come drifting up to the surface or slapping us across the face, so that we can see them, so that we can move through them. We can accept ourselves despite whatever's happening, despite the fact that we might not feel very loving towards ourselves or anybody else, the fact that we might feel irritated or frustrated with what's going on. I think that this is a time where we're called upon to be very kind, very compassionate, to not only ourselves, but to other people in our environment and outside. The tendency is to polarize. The tendency is to say, how do you possibly believe that? Can you not see the truth? But that person has their own truth. And it's to really raise our levels of compassion, because I think that everybody on the planet's doing the best they can with the information that they have and where they're at. So we need to be kind to ourselves and other people. And I think that starts with bringing ourselves back, and anchoring ourselves in the heart. So one of a very good technique is to bring yourself back to the breath, to breathe in for 4, hold it for a couple, maybe 4 beats, and then breathe out for 6. And as you breathe out for 6, you drop your shoulders and you relax your body. And when you do that, the parasympathetic nervous system relaxes. And that parasympathetic nervous system is very heightened right now. So I feel that we need to do this more and more often. That's one technique. The other thing is to pause throughout the day, especially if you feel that you're being overwhelmed, is just to stop and breathe. A few deep breaths and bring yourself back. Just bring yourself back to this moment and what you can do in this moment. And then each thing that we need to deal with, to actually just deal with that one thing, because that's what you can deal with in this moment. And we can always deal with what's presented to us in this moment. We can't necessarily deal with the unknown future because it's the unknown and it can be quite scary. But we can deal with what's presenting itself right now. So I encourage you to do that, especially over the next few days. Just keep bringing yourself back. Keep bringing yourself back to the place of love, which resides here. In the book, Living in the Heart, what this man, Dranvala, was guided to do was to lead people through a process where they actually connected with the sky, they connected with the earth, they felt the love for those two different polarities, and then they actually connected those two together in the heart. And the heart is really, you could almost see it as the connecting point where everything connects. And if you look at life in the view of we are love at our core, then that's the place that we come home to. And that is definitely what this full moon is saying. Do the stuff that you love. If it's creativity, do more of that. If it's connecting with nature, digging in the garden, cooking, do more of that. But be totally present with it. We can also change our state. So if you feel yourself again overwhelmed, irritated, frustrated, whatever it is, sad, just see if you can move your body, shake your body around, go outside, get a few breaths, do some star jumps, do whatever you do to actually change the state, because your state of being is basically creating your reality. So if we have the choice of changing our state of being in every moment. We can choose to go into the drama, we can choose to fight, we can choose to be polarized, or we can choose to actually stand in our own power, stand in our own light. And that's what this time, apart from the full moon, this is just a point in our journey. But this energy of this time is momentous. We're being called to find a new way of being, a new vision, to find a new vision, to envisage and envision a new life, a new world, and to focus on that rather than the horror stories, rather than the fears that we have in our minds, is to hold that vision of how you want to feel going forward, how you want to show up. That's what I spoke about in my earlier video earlier on in the month. So it's just in any moment to bring yourself back, and to connect. The other thing you can do is just connect with the heart. And as you breathe, actually feel as if you're breathing in through your heart and not your lungs. And that actually apparently brings us back into heart coherence. And when we're in card coherence, we can actually, we do find the truth in that place. We're out of our heads. We're in our hearts. When we're in our heads, very confusing, too much information. 60,000 thoughts a day, probably more with all the information that's coming at us. So there's never been a better time or never been a more important time to actually just bring ourselves back into the heart's space. And it goes way beyond like romantic visions of the heart space. The heart space is the place that we're empowered. It could actually even be the sacred place, the place where our spirit resides. This is what's also mentioned in the book, Living in the Heart. What's also mentioned there is that when groups of us get together in meditation or just in a high vibrational state, we actually form sort of little circles of light, and those circles of light feed into the field and change the field. So whenever you can do that, wherever you can raise your consciousness, whether it's on your own, with your family, in a group, do that, because each one of us is feeding light into the field, and the field needs it. The field needs our light. There's a lot of light coming in at the moment, but we can actually add to that. So in that way, we can actually be co-creators. This is a year where we're realizing that we have the choice and we have the power to master our state of being, to actually become real co-creators, which means co-creating our world and shifting it at a fundamental basis. So I also pulled a card for us for this full moon, and it's a really interesting card. Actually, I was pulling a card and it fell out, so I kind of always know that then that's the card for us. And it's Joan of Arc, which is a really interesting one because Mars and Uranus and all these squares that we've got are very kind of warlike. So it's from the pack, The Divine Feminine, this pack. So it says here, when your soul selects the card, during Joan of Arc's heresy trial, her interrogators asked her if she was in a state of grace. She answered, "If I am not, may God put me there, and if I am, may God so keep me." Her unfaltering faith in the truth of her own visions made the impossible possible. As a teenager, she led an army that changed the course of history for France, and because of the trials, we have sworn testimony detailing the courage of her convictions and her own testimony about her visions of Archangel Michael, who inspired the course of her actions. "Act and God will act," she said. The faith she had in her vision allowed her to take on a task that had never been done before by a young woman. Her every action chanted, "I am not afraid. I was born to do this." She is associated with the fleur de lis, known as the flower of light. It represents the Trinity, the profound truth that the Trinity would not exist without Mary and her brave response to the angel Gabriel's call. Joan, like Mary, knows she is directly connected to the divine from within her, and she allows that connection to guide her. Joan of Arc's life is a testament to what is possible for us when we believe steadfastly in our own vision. She asks for us to move beyond our fear, to act on our truth, and to do this with the confidence of knowing that our every step is flanked with angels. Isn't that beautiful? And the Holy Trinity you can also see as the Father up above, the Mother below, and the Holy Trinity being the heart, which is also connected in that book, Living in the Heart. The soul voice meditation suggested by this card is, what is the most powerful vision for my life? That's a very powerful question. So it's interesting that this card fell out of the pack today because we actually just starting a life vision workshop on Thursday. It's the first part of our journey to freedom, our next journey to freedom. But we're focusing this week so from Thursday to Thursday next week, on life vision, on what is it? We're asking questions like, What does freedom mean to me? Who am I really? Really, really, really? What do I really, really want? And what's the vision for my life for 2021? So we'd like to invite you to join us for the first week for Life Vision. There's no obligation to join us for the rest of the journey. And for that Life Vision week, you'll be given 2 Zoom calls where you'll be able to interact with John and I and a whole beautiful group of like-minded people. And you'll also have access to a membership page with 2 meditations, one Life Vision guided visualization and another meditation that you can do daily to just bring yourself back. Also some journal work, a creative collage exercise, 3 teaching videos. There's quite a lot of value. And you're welcome to join us for free. We're also going to be giving out a bursary for somebody that attends the Life Vision course, and they will be eligible to win a full Journey to Freedom course, which is 13 weeks long. All you have to do is join Life Vision and attend the 2 Zoom calls and email us a motivation, and then we'll select somebody to do the full journey. So we invite you to join us. It's going to be great. This is the time to do it, absolutely, no doubt. The sun's just moved into Aquarius. It's all about vision. This card's kind of backing that up, and the astrology of this moment really does back this up as well. There's never been a more important time for us to find a new way of envisioning the world and our lives. So please join us. You can visit our website, journeysofawakening.com. And if you'd like a reading with me to see what lies ahead this year for you personally and how all this planetary stuff's interacting with your own chart, you can contact me at the address here or by email. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you possibly on our Life Vision workshop on Thursday, which is the night of the full moon. So I'll lead you through a guided visualization on that night as well. Lots of love. Take care of yourself. Remember to anchor yourself. You are loved. You are love. Thank you.